Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday English Dharma talk hosted by the Sheng Meditation Center. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, our teacher, Gilbert Gutierrez. Gilbert is one of and today my pleasure to introduce him to you and also to let you know this is a series of the talks on the title of One Heart, One Mind, Charting the Course of the Ancient Sheng Masters. Thank you, Gilbert.
Okay. There I am. I'm getting an echo. Give me 1 second to adjust here. I think you can see me, but there I am. I have to apologize because my internet is down, so I'm using my Wi-Fi on my phone and trying to connect everything to that. So give me 1 second to adjust everything. I'm trying to get the screen of seeing you. There it is. Well, I get names, but I don't see pictures, but we'll go on and do the best we can right now. I'm still getting an echo. Make sure my audio is disconnected. I apologize for it. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. And again, I'm sorry. These are things that I'm trying to adjust, and I can't adjust them until you put the screen on. But I think I don't have the echo anymore, so I'm in good shape. We'll go on. We've been talking about the master Yan Yun Jishen and his instructions to the to future Chan masters. And I approach this in terms of talking about Chan masters and their teachings from his viewpoint, because it was very unique in terms of one of telling someone who might be a Chan master to be how to be one. And in order to do that, he has to show how to be a good practitioner. In order to get to the level of a Chan master, one has to practice well in order to have had an experience or a realization in which that they can share with others. Now, some realizations and experiences are very, very shallow. Some of them are more profound. It doesn't mean that someone has to be a Chan master in order to present the Dharma, but we present the Dharma in a way that is for whatever we have sincerely experienced, we can share that with others, or what we have read, we can share with others. But the difficult part of all of this is because what is being taught, ekayana, this one mind, is not something that can be taught. It cannot be named, so how can we even talk about it? Yet the Chan masters have artfully expressed ekayana through their teachings, verbally and in writing, but are so cautious so as people do not rely on what is being said, that they believe that this is the true Dharma. It's very difficult, and sometimes I find when I'm reading doctrinal theses and doctrinal writings of different Buddhist scholars and philosophy scholars and historical scholars, that they try to pigeonhole Chan into a certain area or a certain understanding, or this, or that there's a contradiction here, a contradiction there. And it isn't really in that way. Of course, there's different schools and different approaches, but it's still ekayana, it's still mind. But when we say still mind, we would have to say still. And then getting beyond that, we just say, because this is the true Dharma presentation without words and phrases. Nevertheless, the skill set of a Chan master is one in which to tightrope across that and try to present something meaningful to the listeners. And this part is very, very challenging, especially if one is sincerely trying to present Chan and present this mind work. It's not something easy, and it's something also that the Chan master has to constantly be picking at his students, from the beginner students to those that are at a higher level, and know that they have some kind of a discrimination left there, know that they have some kinds of residue of this idea of Atman, of identity to an individual self. It's not easy for us. And what one master said is it feels like when you're practicing that you're swimming upstream. And to a certain extent you are, because you're battling the habitual tendencies that have led one to be trapped into this dream world. And because we're in the dream world, we look around and we say, everything is here, it's solid. I hit my desk and I say that it's solid. And so to me, I am constantly confirming the reality of this world. And it's difficult because how, as a Chan master, do you go about telling people that this is a dream? It's not that easy to do. So in this practice, the masters have used many, many devices to approach this. And the reason that I'm telling you from the Chan master's perspective is so that you can understand that what is the purpose of the delivery of the Buddha Dharma. I'd said earlier that there is the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, but two of them are actually false, that being the Sangha and the Dharma. The Dharma belongs to the samsaric side. Only the Buddha is there, and only if we come to the realization that we cannot even call it Buddha. But therein lies the difficulty for the Chan master. So then what do you call it? Well, we call it Buddha, we call it mind, but it is far from the idea that there is a mind, a thing. This is not easy for anyone to be able to do, because of the fact that the Chan master has to convince the students to have faith in mind, and to let go of these preconceptions and all of these kinds of habitual tendencies, emotions that arise. And it's the emotions oftentimes that are very, very difficult to do. What are the emotions that hit us? The first one is fear. We have a lot of fear as to, well, I don't want to not exist. But Chan is not nihilistic. Oftentimes, though, when it's taught, it appears to be nihilistic. And this is very lamentable, because it kind of tends that way, where we say sunyata, that nothing exists. And so then we say, well, that nothing exists. But it isn't in this way. there's a subtlety here. And this is what Master Jishan was getting to in terms of how to present this in a way so that people do not fall into these delusional states. Even at a higher level of practice, you can get to a state where you just simply sit and you can turn off all of your emotions, turn off all your conceptions, turn off everything. But it's like the refrigerator door closing. It's cold and dark. There's nothing there. And it's easy to get into that. But the difficulty there is there's no illumination. So then the student asks, well, what is illumination? How are you even going to explain that to someone and say, illumination, the only thing you have to do is just say sit until you get there. But it's the Chan master that has to guide the students to get them out of these ruts and move them along. And each case is a little different. Each case, some people have a high capacity, some people have a low capacity. It doesn't mean that much. No, we have the people such as the layperson of Vilamakruti, who was an incredibly high capacity person. And then we had the disciple of the Buddha, who was taught to sweep the courtyard because he could not remember even a single line of a sutra. Yet that low capacity person became enlightened before the other so-called Buddhist scholars that were in his group. There is that potential with everyone because it all is mind and it is beyond the intellect. It doesn't mean that we abandon the intellect to practice and to see things clearly and to produce our wisdom. But we should not confuse intellect with this deep wisdom. It's different. It's different. I'm sure quite a few of you are well-read, gone to college, everything. You've seen many, many people who are very, very intelligent. Have you ever seen an intelligent person do a stupid thing? I don't see too many of you. Have you seen somebody who thinks they're really smart and they're doing stupid stuff? And you just go, well, how could they do that? They're so smart. They should know that, or they shouldn't be gambling or taking drugs or smoking or whatever it is. So intellect isn't the same as wisdom. The wisdom can come from reading one single line of a sutra. It doesn't matter if you've read the whole sutra. And you begin to get some kind of a high level of understanding, so you think, but it's all intellect. It's not a sincere practice. And the Chan master has to break that down with someone who's attached to that. To the ones that are of a lower capacity, you lend them your light. You help them in very simple ways. And sometimes they're easier to bring along than someone who already has preconceived notions that you have to break down or that can sit. And you see them in the Chan hall all the time. They just sit like stone lions. But if you stand behind them, you can feel. Some of them that look like stone lions, you hear wah, 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 so much talking. Others, it's just like if you hook them up to an EKG machine, it would just be a flat line. That's not Chan. Chan is dynamic and very active, but it's difficult for us to present that, and it's something that you have to accept and have the faith in terms of doing that. So a lot of what I'm talking to you about is what Master Jishan is saying, but I'm putting it into my words to communicate to you, to be a little bit more expeditious and not just simply read everything that he wrote. But this has been the the duty of each Chan master and presenting it and giving it to the next generation, next generation, to assure that there is this continuity of Ekayana, this continuity of understanding the Mahayana practice, understanding that it isn't something that we look at and we say that everything is real and that we want to go to nirvana, but looking at it and saying, even nirvana, even the term real is not real. How do we know how we say if something is real or not? It is not so easy for us to do that. So there was a question, I think I might get to it, where asking the master, does mind exist or not exist? What would you say? You be the master. Does mind exist or not exist? Anybody? Nobody want to take this up on a Sunday morning? Those who are in the East, it's almost noontime, so you should be awake. Yeah, Eon. Unmute Eon, please. Or are you unmuted? Hello?
All right. The answer that came into mind was sort of a classic one. Woo.
Woo.
It doesn't have anything to do with existence or non-existence. Both of those are conceptual poles. And so you can't say anything positive or negative about mind that's real. You can't say anything about anything that's true.
You had me at woo. Everything after that was just Jabberwocky. Not bad though. Okay. It's just something that you're going to get somebody that's going to say to you, does mind exist or not exist? And you need to know what to say. And let's say, like Robert, who is the parrot, the one that I always say, just the one, and I haven't cut his finger off yet. But if somebody asks you that, what are you going to say to them, Robert? Put your finger up, and so you have to really practice sincerely, respect what the masters are presenting, but you got to meet them halfway. And a lot of people come to a lecture and think that it's just a download. It's not a download. And the Chan masters are not doing this. They're not trying to download information into you. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to corner the self, to not let the self have any room to move around, to breathe, to exist and survive. When we do that, then what happens is that we enable the mind itself to properly reflect and illuminate. Okay, so with that kind of an opening, let's get to some of the masters through the time periods have indicated, what things that might be helpful to you. And again, these are just little snippets of theirs. We first start with Master Ling Chi from the Zen teachings of Master Ling Chi. And he says, followers of the way, this thing called mind has no fixed form. It penetrates in all 10 directions. In the eye, we call it sight. In the ear, we call it hearing. In the nose, it detects odors. In the mouth, it speaks discourse. In the hand, it grasps. In the feet, it runs along. Basically, it is a single bright essence, but it divides itself into these 6 functions. And because this single mind has no fixed form, it is everywhere in a state of emancipation. Why do I tell you this? Because you followers of the way seem incapable of stopping this mind that goes rushing around everywhere looking for something. So you get caught up in those idle devices of the men of old. And these idle devices of the men of old, I think what he's referring to here is that that someone is looking for nirvana, blowing out the light. And so we're constantly trying to make this transformation as if we are like a worm, but one day we'll spin ourselves up and then we'll come out as this butterfly. And that sounds very sentimental, very romantic, very wonderful, and you'd say, like, this is Gilbert Dharma, not true Dharma. I used to be a worm just like you, but now I'm a butterfly and I can fly wherever I want to. This is just garbage. And it's not the way that we should think. It's not the way that we should practice. Our practice is one where we see things in a state of equanimity, upika. And in the state of equanimity, we are clear about things. We're clear about mind. We don't have to define it. It knows us, but we do not know it, and it cannot be any other way. So that's why they say, is mind exist or not exist? Whoever's saying that, whoever's responding to it, would not really know. Mind knows from its own inherentness of its own body. It knows its body. We know our body. We don't look at our hand and say, I don't know you. Where did you come from? Maybe I can use you. No, we know our body. Mind knows the body. This is part of the body of the mind, but a very tiny little bit. It's just a dream, an illusion. We should aspire for a higher understanding and realization than simply trying to gild our body and make it some kind of a perfect being. It's not going to work that way. Therein lies the difficulty for the master of trying to present something to people, for them not to try to polish themselves up. And so what we want is a transcendence from this. But when we even talk about transcendence, that falls short too, because there's nothing to transcend to. It just is mind. So, but that doesn't help, right? If I just say that to you, no one here is going to say, I'm enlightened. No, simply by laying on the hands. It requires the student to ponder this, to contemplate this, so that they can do it, to make genuine effort in terms of the practice. Without that kind of genuine effort, it will not work. Master Ling Chi, in the very first part of his treatise, says, those who study the Dharma of the Buddhas these days should approach it with a true and proper understanding. The true and proper understanding. What is it? It's mind work. Use the perception of mind, not the perception from the five skandha. And then we have a chance, because then we know it's not just this finger pointing at the moon. That's an error. This finger pointing at the moon and going, I see my finger, but I don't see the moon. You'll never see the moon. My goodness. The moon radiates and shines equally upon all things. It is the one that is seen. The finger is a reflection. If the finger was there on a clear night with a full moon and you see the finger, it would be no more of a reflection than its reflection on a clear pond. It is in this way. But if those words could deliver you, I wouldn't have to work anymore. I could retire and I could just open up a store just telling you those words and you could become enlightened. But it doesn't work that way. You have to really join along. It's not that you just use your ears. You use all your senses to contemplate. Fatang was saying that we have to use our senses to contemplate, not cogitate, not to think, but to contemplate. What is this contemplation? The contemplation is the ability of the mind to remain stationary, but as it's stationary, it is observant of all the things around it in a state of what they call upika. And in upika, it's a state of equanimity where everything is observed. So even though I'm talking to you and aware that I'm in this lecture, I nevertheless am aware that my dog in the room is drinking water. It doesn't interfere with anything that I say, but there is an awareness in this way. When the awareness is in a state of equanimity, nothing protrudes. And we don't get into the idea of substantiality or insubstantiality. Everything is in a perfect balance. Even that which is insubstantial will become substantial, and vice versa. But it's all in a perfect balance. In fact, there's no movement at all. I wish I could give you this moon. But you have to earn it. You have to practice. This is the exhortations of the masters. So let's get to the next one. Here, hold on a second. We'll talk about Hui Ning and this idea of Wu Yan. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, because even though I'm not using my computer, I need the time. Okay. And Hui Ning talks about this idea of no thought. This is something that's an important principle in terms of how we begin to practice this idea of Wu Yan. And so when we sit on a cushion and we're taught, don't think, just hold your method. And we don't understand this. Oftentimes, it's not explained properly. Oftentimes, it's something that that people just try to blank their minds. And this does not work right. Hui Ning corrected that, and unfortunately, I don't have his. There was this one passage that was talked about Wolung's skill, and Wolung was a master who said that he had a great skill, and his skill was that he was constantly cleaning the mind and not letting any idle thoughts come in and stilling it in this way. And he said that my bodhi is growing every day. When Hui Ning heard this, Hui Ning said, no, this does not reflect the true and proper understanding. And so he wrote his, and unfortunately, I don't have it today, but essentially paraphrase it. He was saying, Hui Ning has no skill. He has hundreds of thoughts a day. And the mind is just like this. So it's not something that grows, but he was saying that it is not the crime of the thought. It is the attachment to the thought. And this is a difference because the thoughts are there. In fact, while I've been lecturing to you, I've had many, many thoughts, but yet the mind is still in a state of Wu Yan, where I have no thought. Huh? But it's this way, because when your mind is just sincerely presenting something involved in the function, then it can express the essence of the practice in a proper way. It is just simply the following the function of the mind in terms of doing this. And in this way, everything is clear. We don't have to try to purge thought from the mind. We use the thoughts as is necessary. It's like a doctor giving you a bottle of pills and you go, wow, if one is good, then 100 would be better. I remember I had an uncle that thought that about vitamins. And so he figured that he could become a Superman by taking 100 vitamin pills, and it almost killed him. So it isn't in this way. We practice, and our practice is one of subtlety. Very, very subtle. We bring the mind slowly to the present moment. We're contemplating what is arising, and we are aware of thoughts arising in the mind. We are aware when there is an interest in the continuous application of the mind to a particular subject. If the subject is one, for instance, to give a lecture, then it's useful. If it is one where the subject is one, and I'm trying not to think of something so it might knock me off of my lecture, but something that's totally different of what I'm going to do today or something else, then the mind will not function properly because it has this scatteredness to it. So we let those go away. We don't have to push them away. We just simply abide in the present moment. This abiding in the present moment is a very interesting topic because, in fact, abiding in the present moment is with the Mahaprajnaparamita understanding that this present moment does not exist. But we apply the practice here because in this corporal body, and if we're utilizing the Buddha mind, we have to accord with the appearances and the environment that we're within and the function of mind. And the function of mind now is to present the Dharma. So the mind will be in the present moment doing this, fully knowing that this character that you see on the screen is but a dream, talking about a dream to dreams, but is just this way. And we're clear about it because beyond those dreams, the connection is mind, not your mind and my mind, mine. And this is the realization that needs to be made in order for one to practice. Initially, it is just simply the wisdom of learning it. And later, it is the wisdom of the application of it. And then after that, it is just function demonstrating the essence of mind. So back to Huineng. It says, Huineng speaks from the standpoint of ultimate truth, the inherent Buddha nature, the non-dual reality lying beyond our everyday unenlightened experience of separation and division. To awaken to this truth, Huineng emphasizes non-clinging to any verbal teachings, which only present obstacles to the true awakening. Instead, Huineng stresses the perspective of no thought, Wunyan, to an open, non-conceptual state of mind that allows one to experience reality directly. So it allows one to experience it directly. This is direct contemplation. This is why I emphasize that as when we meditate, that we have to have this direct contemplation, direct mind. Mind is there, and mind is functioning in this way. So it says, no thought is to not think even when involved in thought. And me today, I have a myriad of problems. My iPad is expiring. Hopefully it'll stay on. No, it's still not. Again, I apologize for all the different technical things. No, I'll lose visual on you guys in a little bit. So we will continue, and then we talk about Huang Po. Let's see what Huang Po says about these subjects. He says the mind is neither large or small, not located within or without. And here it's very interesting because he's talking about not located within or without. What sutra would that remind you of? You know, hopefully the Sheng Sutra, where the Buddha is talking to Ananda and trying to explain to him it's not the mind isn't inside or outside or in the middle. It should be thought about by it should not be thought about by the mind nor be discussed by the mouth. Ordinarily, it is said that we use the mind to transmit the mind, or that we use the mind to seal the mind. What do you think? Do we use the mind to transmit the mind and use the mind to seal the mind? What do you think? Is this a correct statement? None of you want to. So do we use the mind to transmit the mind, mind to mind, seal the mind? Does that sound right? You guys give me the deer in the headlight look.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, because there's only mind.
Because there's only mind.
But also no, because there's, how can you do in mind? If it's all mind, is mind doing?
Keep going.
Now I'm stuck.
It is okay though. It is okay. I mean, what do you think? To other sagacious practitioners here, do we use the mind to transmit the mind or to seal the mind? And you go, gosh darn it, it's another Gilbert Chan trick questions that if I say this, I'm going to look like a fool, or I'm going to be like put down one row back to the back of the class.
It's like one of those things where you start talking and then you realize that as you're saying it, it's undoing what you're saying.
There you go. I mean, but that's important. That's important. That is contemplation. That's not cogitation, but that you're all of a sudden you're starting to look at it and see it. So anybody else? Nobody wants to take a bite of a peach today? All right. Let's go on. So he says, if this is the case, then mind, excuse me, keep track of where I was at. Actually, however, in transmitting mind, there is really no mind to receive or obtain. And in sealing the mind, there is no mind to seal. Now, give me a show of hands of how many of you are going to say that, right? All right. If this is the case, then does mind exist or does not exist? Oh, here's the question we were talking about earlier. Does mind exist or not exist? What did Nagarjuna have to say about this? Anybody? Those well-scholared? Yes, Harry, go ahead.
It's a tetralemma, right? You can't pin down exist, not exist, or both or neither. So, and it's just words. It's not going to buy you anything.
So what did he say?
Well, there's I mean, I thought that that's what he said. I mean, that was my interpretation, my distorted memory.
Well, do you remember the Vilamakruti Sutra when Manjusri was saying that to talk about it is you cannot talk about the mind.
He said nothing.
No. Vilamakruti then responded when they asked him, and he did not say anything. So Nagarjuna, although pointing out all of this, he never weighed in on does it exist or not exist. A very interesting thing, because it keeps him from spinning around, and it's kind of like the joke of the card that says, how do you keep a person in suspense? And it says, turn the card over for the answer. And it says the same thing on the other side, and so the whole thing is it's very interesting. It's the last resort. Vilamakruti then said to even Manjusri, that's too much. Don't say anything, which is very, very interesting. But it's interesting in the Vilamakruti Sutra because Sariputra in that same one also kept silent when he was asked by a goddess on a subject of the Dharma, and the goddess upbraided him for being silent because he was silent not because to demonstrate a point, is that he simply wasn't sure, so he didn't want to put his hand up and answer. So a point to all of you out there, okay? But in any case, let's continue on. And I think this is kind of helpful in terms of how we're looking at things and how we see it, because it's difficult to talk about these Chan masters without seeing why they're saying what they're saying and the commonality in what they're saying. And so then it says, actually, it cannot be said with certainty that the mind either exists or does not exist, for it is absolute reality. And then Nagarjuna went one step further, which said that there's apparent reality and there is absolute reality. And if he was asked which one is the real one, that's when we get into the tetralemma that Harry was talking about. Do they exist? Do they not exist? No. And so it's a very interesting thing. But it is the manners, the expedient means in which the masters in the past have responded. And sometimes to respond is not to respond. But if you just simply, like the little master or the little attendant to the master that kept holding up his hand like it's just the one, then you'll get your finger cut off. Okay, and then it says, if you open your mouth, you are wrong. If you give rise to a single thought, you're in error. So if you can quiet your thinking totally, all that remains is void and stillness. And this admonition of Huang Po is the one that is so misunderstood. It is something that we truly have a problem with, because we think that this means no thinking. It's not that, it's wunyan, it's this unattached thinking that's the difference. But people want to sit and then just block their mind out, and you can do it. You really can do that, but it is not illumination. There's no illumination there. Well, what is the illumination? That's not something that can be expressed in words. It's beyond words, but you have to keep going. The master would know if you have illuminated your mind or not. But if you go to him and say, oh, my whole body was filled with this wonderful light and everything else, he'll probably kick you out of the room. We continue with Master Po. The mind is Buddha. The Buddha is mind. All sentient beings and all Buddhas have the same mind, which is without boundaries and void, without name and form, and is immeasurable. So there he is now repeating ekayana. And so so this is something that's very, very important, because this he's saying that this is just mine. And so this is his way of explaining ekayana, just mine. And so the idea of ekayana is not a definition. It is a path. It is according with mind, so that mind will ultimately absorb all the phenomena, including your idea of an individual self. You do not become enlightened. Mind absorbs you. But it's just like in some sci-fi movie, even if you were going to become enlightened or have some kind of an awakening, the body continues to work, but it just serves a different purpose. In the sci-fi movie, it's to try to convert other people to the alien lifestyle, or to make them food. Here, our idea is to get rid of samsara. Well, then I guess maybe we're probably in the same business, aliens and us. Okay. That's a joke. Master Hong said, he says, the practice of true reality is simply to sit serenely in silent introspection. So we sit serenely in silent introspection. The ancients would say, we need to turn the mind's eye inward. And I like that saying. It isn't necessarily completely correct, but it's still not bad to turn the mind's eye inward, because to me, what it means is that we are no longer perceiving things from the five skandha, which are fundamentally empty, and it's a reflection on mind. But to turn the mind's eye inward, then we're now, as if the moon is looking at the finger. So it is like, all right, the finger's here, but the moon's looking at it. It's not like, oh, there it is over there. It is reorienting the mind in a manner in which now the mind is using its own inherent perception and wisdom to perceive the things around it. It does not perceive it in a linear way, such as in samsara, where we go through these whole things of putting all the senses together. We look and see this is a red object. It's shiny. It has a fragrance. It has a certain touch to it. It has this brown thing coming out. It's an apple. It doesn't look like at it like that. Mind just sees it. It doesn't even need to call it anything. It just knows. Not bad. And it's instantaneous. It doesn't follow a linear pattern, such as if we were going to use the Yogacara school's way of looking at things from the five conscious to six to the seventh. It just knows that's there. This is not something that can be taught. It is something that has to be practiced and realized. Realized meaning an awakening. And in the beginning, the awakenings can be very small, or they can be very, very jolting if the person has a good affinity and connection with Buddha Dharma from the past. When you fathom this, you cannot be turned around by external causes and conditions. This empty, wide open mind is subtly and correctly illuminating, spacious and content, without confusion, from inner thoughts or grasping. So again, this a master, he's explaining, you don't cling to things. We don't hold on to any kind of a thought. We just simply let it go. And whatever's there, if it's useful, we use it. If it's not useful, we don't. If a carpenter was nailing boards, he would nail the boards, but he wouldn't carry the hammer around when he needs to saw. It doesn't make any sense. So he has to put that down to pick up the saw, to saw and measure the wood, measure it twice, and then saw. And then he can then pick up his hammer and nail and do that. Everything is in function. But the way we navigate through samsara is we carrying all this baggage around with us, and we don't know which tool to use in any particular moment. So we think this tool of mental impressions, discriminations, desires, adversions, those are helpful to us. No, they're not helpful to us. They mess everything up. You don't need them. You can still do that. You can still love people. People say, well, I don't want to be like I don't have any love for people. It's not that way. You still have that. Shifu in his death poem was saying, laughing and crying. Because we still laugh, we still cry, we still observe, but everything is in the middle way. We're clear about it. If we taste a strawberry, we can taste a strawberry and experience its coolness and sourness and sweetness. All those things are not interfered with. It is just that we are clear about it, and we don't allow thoughts to arise to affect us. One of the major practices that you can have is buy a gallon of your best ice cream and put it in your freezer, and then look at it every day. And if it lasts more than a week, you're doing good. Okay. If it's gone in the first night, then you've got definitely some major emotional problems that you're just scooping it out of the container itself. But what I'm saying is everything is to a moderation, the middle way. It doesn't mean, oh, you can't have ice cream. Of course, if you're a diabetic, you have to watch how much you can take. No, but you have to be clear about things. It is in the habitual tendencies that get to us. It was very interesting. My mom, she was a very slender lady. I don't know whose genes I got. It must have been from my dad's side. But my mom would always say, you can eat anything that you want as long as you don't eat too much of it. I mean, that was probably one of the most wisest things that I've ever heard. I mean, it's so simple. You don't have to be a great intellect to understand that. And she was disciplined enough to be able to do that. So it's very interesting. Chan is in just this way in terms of the essence of this wisdom, and the function of it is something very important. What we do with this practice is more than what we understand from the practice. Let me move on a little bit. And this is from Master Han Shan. And I'll read the opening first and then read a little bit further down. He says, concerning the causes of this great matter, the Buddha nature is intrinsically within everyone. As such, it is already complete within you, lacking nothing. So again, ekayana, they're all saying the same thing, That's their opening line, the true and proper understanding of what? Of mind, this great matter. What is this great matter? Here they say that this is Buddha nature, but this great matter can also be this matter of birth and death. And the matter of birth and death is, what is this body? What does this body mean? What does this mind mean? And are they together? Are they connected? Or are they separate? And when the body dies, does the mind go on? And so it's interesting. There's this thing we don't know, but we want to investigate. So then further down, he reads, following and meeting the different dispositions of sentient beings, all these expedient means are like tools to crush the mind of clinging and realize that originally there is no real substantiality to dharmas or the sense of self. And this is very, very important, because when he says dharmas with a little d, that means phenomena, that there's nothing substantial to them. But he goes the extra step so that he says that is the sense of self. And this is what the Buddha taught way back. And it's very interesting, because people will say, oh, no self. So Atman in Sanskrit means self. Anatman it doesn't necessarily mean no self. It means not self. There's a subtle difference there when we say not self. That's something that you need to contemplate to see the difference between saying there's no self and not self. Because we don't, by saying no self, then we say there's no reality to self, but there is a reality to self, because we're always using it. But we don't really understand that. And we don't understand. We cannot take self and say, okay, you're out of the party. You are not part of mind. What? No. I told you already, if you didn't clean up your act, you have to get out. So you have to get out. And so then where is the self going to go? It's going to be outside knocking. Can I come back into mind? No, you can't. I told you already, you can't come in. That's the difference between not self and no self. And it enables us to understand things much better, clear by this. So I'm really trying to take what these masters are saying and trying to give you their delivery, their big guns, their way of doing it, so that you can use this and inspire yourself to practice. These are words that were written many hundred years ago, and for Han Shan, that was in the 16th century. And we're still reading it, and it still makes a heck of a lot of sense. At that point where Jishan was saying, in this Dharma ending age, which was 100 years after Master Han Shan, but still it's already a Dharma ending age. So I don't know what the heck we're in now, but it's a long Dharma ending age. Some more from Han Shan. In order to engage in the practice, you must first sever knowledge and understanding and single-mindedly exert all efforts on one thought. So the one thought, the present moment, being aware, being clear in this moment. Sometimes the masters would say one thought for 10,000 years. And you say, but Gilbert, I thought you said that there's all sorts of many, many, many thoughts. Yes, but it's Wu Yin. Understand, in Wu Yin, there's no thought, but we use the thoughts, but it's something that we see it clearly. We have a realization of this. So then he says, have a firm conviction in your own true mind that originally is pure and clear, without the slightest lingering thing. It is bright and perfect and pervades throughout Dharma Dhatu. How could it not? It is the body of the Buddha, the Dharmakaya. Everything belongs to it. There's nothing outside of it, not even the idea of self. Intrinsically, there is no body, mind, or world, nor are there any deluded thoughts and emotional conceptions. Right at this moment, this single thought itself is unborn. It's unborn. Why? Because we are using mind. This mind, this very mind we're using, is the Buddha mind. You've got it already. Hallelujah. It's there. Just now. You didn't have to strive for it. You've got it already. But it's like somebody handing you the keys to a fast Porsche, and then you just drive it into the ground. Why'd you do that? Well, because I don't know. It seemed like fun at the time. So this moment, you have this. Even if you drive it into the ground, it's still there. Everything that manifests before you now is illusory and insubstantial, all of which are reflections projected from the true mind. So it's not separating it out, and it's not saying to you that these things are illusions and it isn't saying that. What it's saying is that these are projected. They're from pratika samapada, cause and condition never fail. These appearances are appearing in mind. Manjusri understood this and said, I don't want to dwell on any of these. I don't want to dwell in samsara. I don't want to dwell here, dwell there. But yet, there's no place the mind is not. It's very interesting. This needs contemplation. Work in a manner to crush away all deluded thoughts. You should fixate your mind to observe where thoughts arise and where they cease. This is really, really, really important.
Gilbert, you froze. I guess he's probably trying to connect again with us. So just hang tight.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Oh, all right. Everything has that could happen is happening. I already lost my iPad from a battery, and I lost my internet, but I somehow I got disconnected, but that's okay. So the good thing is I finished, so I can take questions from you. So please ask your questions.
One person, where was your source when you were reading? Where was that from? Somebody want to know.
Many different ones. Everything that I was reading was from different viewpoints. First, I was talking about Master Jishan from Attaining the Way of, it's I think the second article in there. I was also reading from The Essentials of the Practice and Enlightenment for Beginners by Master Han Shan, which is a very, very good one. Then the Zen Teachings of Hong Zi, and then the Dharma of Mind Transmission, Zen Teachings of Master Huang Po, and then there was just an article on Hui Ning that I was reading from. I don't know if I have anything on that. It was just from the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, kind of remote one. And then the Zen Teachings of Master Ling Chi. And I highly recommend that to start with the Zen Teachings of Master Ling Chi, Master Huang Po. Also, I didn't talk about him, but Master Bo Shan, who's also in the Attaining the Way a book of Shifu. Let's see here if you can see that. Attaining the Way is an excellent source for people to use. So I highly recommend all of those to have a ability to kind of go through it and read it. And if you see, this is kind of one of my one of them from, I'll try to see if you can see it. But you see how many times I made notes on it, and it's all tattered up. And even the book that I use from Attaining the Way is all like in shreds. That's how many times I've gone over things so that we can, that I can use it, and I use it and use different colored ink. But it is something that, don't read something once, read it over and over again. And the first time you just get basic understanding. After that, the understanding becomes deeper and deeper. And you'll actually be able to feel the master in your heart. Okay, questions?
Thank you. Yeah, raise your hand if you have questions, and you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. If no one has a question, I can start.
Go ahead.
Well, in light of what's happening right now, it's really a lot of tragedies going on, right? In Middle East, and Israeli and Palestinians are fighting each other. In just overnight, one family of multi-generations are killed, 10 people passed. Now, with this kind of situation, what is the relevance of learning this Chan that you are talking now? Can you enlighten us now?
Yes, I think that the Chan masters from before, especially Master Ling Chi, was someone that refers to this place as this burning building, and this world is not an idyllic setting. It's idyllic to the extent that it enables us to practice Buddha Dharma if we were in heaven, we would have no interest in studying Buddha Dharma unless we're a very great practitioner, because it's nice there. There's not a problem. No. But here on earth, there's joy and sorrow. And as a result of it, we have to see that. We have to see the causes and conditions of everything, pratika samappada. And it's something that it hurts you inside, not in a sentimentality, but just of the ignorance, and the understanding that all of this violence will beget violence. It will get worse and worse. And you begin to feel things differently from the world. And you anticipate those things. And I was telling a group last night that my senior student, Santha, is right now in India. And it's a very bad situation. Her parents both got COVID, and she's over there trying to attend to them. And I think she has a grandmother that's very serious as well. But I had told her about a month ago or more that the situation in India was going to become very, very bad. And it was going to collapse, and just to kind of prepare her. And sure enough, then after that, her parents got sick, and then she flew over there. But the thing about this bodhicitta is that it enables you to see the world as it is, and even anticipate when things are going to happen. You see it because you can see the karma, and you can feel it. You can feel when something is going to happen. Sometimes you can help people, sometimes you can't. But what's important is that the vision that the mind perception gives you is so much greater than the narrow vision of the perception from the five skandha. But it enables us to see things in this way that we don't see it necessarily from the viewpoint of anger or frustration or whatever. We see it clearly as that this world is like this. Of course, we want to try to change things the best we can, and we try to watch our own emotions and our own discriminations, so that we don't discriminate. And throughout the whole world, there's discrimination. People who are from the same country discriminate because they're from a different tribe, not even a different religion sometimes, but the same religion, but they still fight with each other. So many different things that happen. So we become clear. We see this, and when we see this, we see the karma from before that brought us to this moment. Even though the Israelis want to say that they're peace loving, they still have the hatred, and the Hamas have the hatred on their side, and it just reaches this boiling point, like Mount St. Helens when it blew up, and became a active volcano again. All of these things are there, and we're seeing that. But the Buddha Dharma helps us understand this and frame this and see what's there, so that we don't become part of the problem in any part.
Thank you. Ron raised his hand, so go ahead, Ron.
Yes. Hi. Good morning, Gilbert. I have a question regarding the no thought versus contemplation realization. You have very well explained the Huinen's no thought. So it's no thought. It doesn't mean flat or dead charm. But then often we don't know whether or not we are in true contemplation. So my question is that from true contemplation, how much equalize realization, and how much realization equals to enlightenment? I mean, this is all related, and then it's something, if we know better, then sometimes we probably practice better.
It is not a mathematical formula of that you add this much, or a cookbook of you add so much cups of sugar and milk and flour. It is in the sincerity of the practice. If it could be that way, where we could add the certain parts and do that, it would work. I understand what you're saying, and there is a balance there that has to happen, and that was important. And your question's a very, very good question, because the balance is, as Shifu was explaining in Mo Chao, the Sillumination, that you have to have the samadhi that's present, that's there, but the samadhi in and of itself is produced by the concentration. And so when we concentrate, and it's the right concentration, which is contemplation. So we're using our contemplation, applying it to the practice, and that produces the samadhi. Now, the samadhi can also be produced by the wrong concentration, which is simply blanking the mind. And if we blank the mind, then there's nothing there. It cannot produce any kind of illumination. It's infertile. And so the maturation of our practice is one where we are clear that we have to have the right concentration. And so we're using the contemplation, and then that samadhi then will bring the mind to stillness. Then it enables the illumination to come up. And so the illumination is there. And so then you say, well, what is the illumination? The illumination is not just sitting on a cushion with your legs crossed and not experiencing pain. That doesn't help you. What the illumination is one in which you are, the mind is still, but there is an awareness there. And that's what's important, is that this awareness is present. And that's why I talk about the elements of meditation in this way, because this is how it works. So we have the idea of the present moment, the contemplation, awareness that's there. It's continuous. And that continuity is very, very important. And by using contemplation, we're not cogitating, we're not thinking and saying, oh, I have to stop my mind from thinking. We don't have to stop the mind from thinking. We just simply have to become aware when the mind is engaged in thinking, and use the 4 practices, the 4 proper exertions, to maintain wholesome thought and encourage wholesome thought to come in, and to discourage unwholesome thought, and don't allow unwholesome thought to come in. But those are thoughts that are either kusala or akusala. The unwholesomeness has nothing to do with sacred and profane. It has to do with sticky thoughts, thoughts that will produce a desire for continuity. And so when we're contemplating, we're simply sitting in this, and the mind absorbs the self. And because of absorbing the self, there is no longer any kind of guest dust affliction that's there. Then the mind is clear. And this is the illumination, is you illuminating not just your let's say inner thoughts, but everything in the environment is illuminated. Everything around you, from the curtains behind you to the window behind you to whatever's around you, to your wife coming in and out, and whatever is happening, all those things are something that is all in accordance with causes and conditions. You have to thank her too, because I was saying, you're there looking like a shadow, and I wish I could see your face. And sure, she comes by and opens up the window, so now I can see you. So it's very interesting. That's how mind works. How is that? Could it be coincidental? No, it is in this way. Everything is connected. And so we don't have to reject anything. We don't have to pick up anything. So when you practice in this way, this is the illumination. So you just keep practicing in the present moment, illuminating your environment, illuminating so that there's no longer a within or a without. It is just mind. This is the illumination. The illumination is the awareness of what is happening at any given moment. Okay, and this is very, very important. So to me, in the evening, before I go to sleep, I am giving blessings to everybody, and I give blessings to as many people as I can possibly give blessings to, and I'm aware of their circumstances, and I'm aware of things, and so it's not a bad way to end the day, to become aware in this way, that is. Especially in the strifes that we have in India and in Israel, these things, of course, we have to send our well wishes to the people so that there's not so much suffering. But you will find that in the proper practice. Okay.
Gilbert, I think our time is up. This is such a profound questions that we all struggle with and learning about and trying to make sense out of it. And thank you so much for your wonderful talk. And so would you like to lead us for the merit transfer?
Sure, I will do that. And again, I apologize for all the difficulties. I woke up this morning at 6 my time and realized my internet was not on, and it still hasn't turned on. So from there, it was a kind of a downward cycle of all the electronics. But thank you for all that listened and had patience with me today. I want to transfer merit to all the people in the entire world that are suffering at this time, and that they can find the way to alleviate their suffering, and passing the blessings and the strength to those who are practitioners and who want to practice sincerely, that they can find the proper path and guidance so that they can help strengthen this world and create a pure land here on earth so that we may practice properly. To all of you, whatever merit I have, I give to you with my sincere wishes that you will spread that, and like jewels, give it to others, and giving to others, you will still have the jewels. You just share them. Thank you very much. We will talk again next week. Amitofo.
Gilbert, so hope to see you again next week, and thank you again for attending today's talk, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Take care.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you.
Amitofo.
Thank you.
Amitofo, amitofo.
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 Goodbye.
Thank you, Gilbert. Amitofo.
Bye.
Thank you.
Amitofo to you. Bye-bye.